Hi, I'm Sonya Smith-Valentine. I'm a personal finance expert and president of Financially Fierce, a financial education and training company. What does that mean? Well, we work with individuals, corporations, and associations to help people own their finances. How do we do that? We do it through coaching, workshops, seminars. We also do brand partnerships and media interviews as our way of educating folks about personal finance. If you're interested in having us come and work with your company, the employees, or your students at your university, please reach out to us either at financiallyfierce.com or at 202 505 1051. Oh, I have a very interesting path on how I got here. Um, I'm not like most personal finance experts. I was a CPA. I left. I went to law school. I practiced law doing nothing but financial litigation. I sued banks, credit bureaus, mortgage companies, credit card companies for violating various consumer protection laws. And when I decided I didn't want to practice law anymore, I wanted to take all that knowledge that I had acquired as a CPA and all the knowledge I acquired from all the financial litigation and use it proactively um, and try to help people avoid some of the problems that I saw when I was practicing law. So that's how I got here.
What's the name of your company?
Financially Fierce.
That's a pretty bold name. What does that mean? What are you trying to convey with that?
My friends tell me that it fits me. I'm always talking about financial issues and money issues with them. They're like, you turn every story into a money story. And they tell me that I'm fierce, that everything that I've done, whether when I was a CPA, especially when they saw me practicing law, that I kind of come at it like, nope, we're going to do this. We're going to do it 100%. We're going to do it wholeheartedly. And so the two names kind of really embody who I am. And I think most people, if they take that kind of attitude about their money and their finances and their financial lives of, I'm going to live financially fierce, it makes you kind of take a different posture and makes you own your finances and make you go, nope, we're going to do this. So I kind of like the name.
Okay. Who do you work with?
I work with individuals, corporations, associations, and colleges and universities. But the bulk of who I work with usually is corporations and associations.
What does that look like? How do you help them?
Sure. So, for example, if we're talking about a corporation, they may decide, you know what, we noticed our employees are having some financial difficulties. Maybe they're asking for pay advances or taking 401k loans, and so there's some financial stress going on. So I'll come in and maybe do some financial classes for their employees to kind of help them learn how to deal with what's going on and get a little bit better handle on their finances. Or a lot of companies have something called ERGs, which are employee resource groups, where the company puts aside money for different kinds of groups. So they may have an African American resource group or a woman's resource group. And those different organizations within the company bring in speakers and things all the time for programming. So one of those kinds of organizations internal to the company may say, hey, we want you to come in and talk to our group about this particular topic in finance or this particular issue that we notice our members are having.
What does it look like when you're working with a college?
So with colleges, usually one of the things that ends up happening is I often am coming in the beginning or the end, believe it or not. So I've been brought in the early stage, like with the freshmen during freshman orientation, to talk with them about, look, you're here, you're away from home, you're on your own, you're probably having, for the first time to deal with money. Let's talk about what that looks like so that you don't get yourself into a whole lot of debt and you're graduating with lots of, debt. Or at the end, sometimes what will happen is the career center will say, let's do a programming. Seniors are graduating. Let's talk to them now that they're getting ready to go on their own and be off into the world about, here are some of the money issues you're going to have to deal with now that you're going to, be taking care of yourself. You're going off, you got a job, you're going to be renting your own place, and all the things that are going to come at them that they've not yet had to experience. So often I'll come in and either do something on the beginning or something at the end.
Give me a major money mistake by a decade. So people in their 20s, you generally see making this major money mistake. Their 30s, their 40s, and then how do they address that?
So I think for people in their 20s, I think there are two problems that pop up for them. One is when they were in college, they really didn't understand what it was going to mean to pay back the amount of student loans that they took out. And so that kind of smacks them in the face when they graduate and they're now on their own to realize I have to pay $700 a month in student loans. Like, where where am I supposed to also pay rent and the car note? And so that's a big money mistake, not really understanding how the amount of loans and all of that is going to affect their quality of living. And the second money mistake I see people in their 20s make is not taking advantage of putting money away for retirement. That multiplier of time is one of the best things that you can do when you're in your 20s. Getting into your company's 401k, or if you work for yourself, immediately starting retirement planning with your own kind of deferred plans. It is just, you are giving up thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that would be there for retirement. So in their 20s, just, I got plenty of time. I have plenty of time. That's probably the biggest thing. In their 30s, I think one of the biggest money mistakes I see is houses and cars. Because now people are thinking about, I want to buy a house, I want to buy a car. And I think sometimes they get caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses or their other friends, because my friend bought this size house or bought this kind of expensive car, thinking I need to do the same. And just because a bank says to you, you qualify for a $400,000 mortgage, doesn't mean you need to buy a $400,000 house. You can buy a smaller house. You can buy a cheaper house. So I think in their 30s, people tend to overdo it in terms of cars and houses. Just because you qualify doesn't mean you have to buy that big. It's okay to buy smaller and keep some of your money in your pocket. And so I think that was part of the problem you saw in the recession, when it kicked in and all the foreclosures and things that happened, because people just bought way beyond what they needed to. And when something happened, they were in no position to handle it. I would say in our 40s, we probably aren't really paying attention to see what do we need to start adjusting, because we are going to retire in 25, 30 years. And we might need to make sure. Most people, if they set up their 401k, they never go back and look at it. Is this the right investments that I'm in? Do I have enough? Do I need to increase what I'm putting away? All of the, I hate to say it, things that we need to make sure are in place in case something happens. Make sure we've got the 401k down. Do we have wills? Do we have powers of attorney? Do we have disability insurance and life insurance? Like all those things that we probably need to have in place. A lot of us in our 40s haven't even thought about it, haven't done it. Oh yeah. Or even if we've thought about it, it's on the to-do list. I'll get to it, and it never makes it up to the top of the to-do list. So I think that's a problem I see in our 40s. As people move into their 50s, I think part of the problem is they're now probably involved in caring for their parents, and they never had financial conversations with their parents before that time. So they find themselves in their early 50s going, crap, mom's 75 and I've got to take part of my check to help her and her household because mom didn't put away enough money, or mom's got certain, health issues. Because they never had a conversation, nobody was prepared for what is coming, and not prepared for, I got to help my parents, but I've also got to help my kids because the kid's in college or something of that nature. So they're kind of in that sandwich point of view of, I got it going and coming, both parents and kids, and just never crossed their mind that they needed to have conversations so that they could be better prepared for what this all meant. I suspect when people hit their 60s, obviously starting to think about retirement, and I don't think a lot of folks always stop and think about, when I retire, I don't get a salary increase. I'm not getting, big chunks of extra money. My expenses, though, are going to probably keep rising because, as we know, expenses go up. I might need to start thinking about changing my living. Maybe I need to sell my big house that I've had all these years. Even though I've lived in it a long time, I need to downsize. I need to start thinking about, do we really need 2 cars? We're not driving 2 cars. We're retired or getting close to retirement. Maybe we only need to pay for 1 car and bring down the car insurance and all those things. And the income is now flat, but I got expenses that are going up and down, and healthcare costs and things like that. I got prescriptions now I got to pay for. And so I think those are the things that probably in their 60s that pop up and catch them by surprise.
You mentioned wills and estate planning. Is that something that a personal finance expert like you handles, or?
Usually what happens is if somebody comes to me and I realize they don't have their wills, powers of attorney, and those kinds of things in place, I will usually connect them with an estate attorney. Because the actual drawing up of the documents, you want an attorney to do that.
Okay. So what other people should someone have in mind for their personal finance team? Personal,
Gotcha.
because it sounds like you can't go to one person and get everything done. Who are the other teammates we need there?
Right. Well, depending upon obviously what's going on in your personal finances, at any given time, you could have a personal finance coach because maybe you're having problems figuring out how to do budgeting and you're trying to figure out where the leaks are. Like, I'm bringing home X, but I seem to not be able to make my expenses even though my expenses are less than my income. Where's the money going, kind of thing. So you may need a coach at one point. You may need a financial planner where they're going to sit down and talk with you about planning for retirement, planning for paying for college, those long-term things. So you may need a financial planner. You probably need an estates and trust attorney to do the wills and the power of attorney and all of those things, because most people don't realize how important that is. People get into financial trouble when, let's say, husband and wife, unfortunately the husband gets sick, let's say, and he goes into a coma. And for some reason, he may have had accounts or things that the wife's name's not on, or she has accounts that his name's not on. And you can't just walk into the bank and say, look, my husband's sick, I need access to the bank accounts because I got to pay the mortgage and his check is going into his account. Bank's going to go, your name's not on the account, we can't do anything for you. So if you haven't put all these documents together, the power of attorney and things like that, you're stuck. And now you're in a financial bind because your husband's in a coma. He's not dead where we're, probating his estate. He's alive. So he still has power over his stuff unless you've got certain documents that you had drawn up. So I always tell people you need the estate attorney as well. And then just depending upon your situation, you might need to talk to a tax professional as well. If there's, issues in terms of trying to figure out what's the best things to do for your taxes. Somebody like me, for example, I have a tax person that I talk to, even though I know a bit, because my husband's got a full-time job. I work for myself. So that's one set of tax things to think about. We've got rental properties. That's another tax implicate. You know what I mean? So there are all these different tax implications. So you can add a tax professional into the mix as well. So at least those four potentially.
Okay. What's your favorite part about what you do, Sonya?
When I see the light bulb go off. When I see that somebody goes, oh, I understand that concept now. I can do that. That's my favorite part. When somebody that I'm either, whether it's one-on-one or in a group or whatever, that was struggling with something that's holding them back financially. They don't understand it. Nobody's ever explained to them in English. Unfortunately, I see too often professionals, because we're educated, we assume everybody that we're talking to has the same level of education sometimes, and they don't. And it's not their fault, but you have to talk to people in ways that they can grasp the concept. And so when I'm talking in English, people have called me a translator. And the mind goes, oh, I get it now. Oh, I can do that. Oh, yeah. That light bulb moment is what I love, because I know I've just done something to change that person's life for the better.
So put your translator hat on for me. Put your translator hat on for me now and describe for me an organization that needs your help but does not realize it.
Okay, sure.
And then do the same thing for an individual.
Okay. So there will be times where certain teams in a company are having productivity issues. And let's say we're talking about a sales team. And people are thinking, oh, they're just not going out and selling enough, or they don't have enough leads. And it sometimes isn't a problem of the leads or them not trying hard enough. Sometimes it's your staff is stressed. And as we all know, whether it's financial stress or other stress, stress takes a toll on how well we perform. So if you've got financially stressed employees and you're not helping them deal with the stress, their productivity is going to continue to be a problem. And there have been I've probably read 5 or 6 studies that have shown when companies have taken the time to provide their employees with financial workshops, they get at least a 2-to-1 return on productivity from the employees. Because on average, if an employee is financially stressed, they're spending anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a month at work working on their personal finance issues, not on work. So imagine how many hours per employee a year a company is losing. So that is something sometimes companies don't think about, that the symptoms aren't necessarily directing them to what the actual problem is. They see a productivity problem, oh, we need to apply them with more sales training, and not realizing that's not what the problem is. The problem is something else underlying, like financial stress. You have to solve that problem to help solve the productivity issue. So that would be an example of a time when a company may need to stop and say, oh, we need to look at this differently. For an individual, I would say they probably need to come and talk when, I recently had somebody. So somebody I know wants to buy a house. And she's got all these different people who are saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. And she recognized part of the problem was her credit report and credit score. And she's reading all kinds of different information and is very confused on what she really needs to do to help get her credit report and credit score in a place where she can get a great mortgage and a great rate. She finally called me and said, I need your help. And we sat down and we worked through looking at her report and her score, where the problem places were, the things she needed to focus on, the areas that would get her the biggest bang for your buck, as I say, in terms of improving her score, so that in a year, which is her goal, a year from now to buy the house, she's in that position that she'll have a great score and get a great rate on her mortgage.
Okay. Yeah. Parting words, Sonya, for both organizations and individuals that recognize that they are not where they would like to be, and they heard something from you today that lets them know that opened their eyes to a possible solution. Where can they start tomorrow? What can they do tomorrow to put themselves on the path to where they want to be?
Well, first, it's a great thing that they've stopped and recognized there's a problem. Because if you don't recognize the problem, no solution would ever be coming. What I would say is they need to decide what kind of help they want. So I'll take the company first. If the company realizes, okay, we're having some problems, we need to do something, they've got to decide, okay, what does that look like? Are we trying to provide training in terms of live workshops for our employees? Do we want to do something online for our employees? We need to start doing research on what kind of program we want to provide. And what they may want to do as a start is do a survey of their employees. We recognize that you guys are having some kind of financial stress. Do you guys want training? If so, what kind, and see what let the employees tell them. This is what we need. This is what I would like. This is what I would want. Because sometimes companies try to address the problem without finding out from the employees, and then they provide the whole wrong kind of solution. And then they're upset because the solution didn't work, but you didn't invite the employees to be part of the decision-making process. So that's where I would start. I would really start with finding out what the employees are feeling, what kind of problems they're talking about having, and what kind of solution they would like help with. As an individual, I would start doing some research on some financial coaches to say, let me see who's out there that I think is worthy, who I think I could work with. Different people have different personalities. So there's some people who need what I call the, oh, okay, let me hold your hand and it's going to be okay. And no, just take a deep breath and it's fine. Some people need that kind of person. And some people need the, okay, come on, look, we can do this. You are way more intelligent than this. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Different people are motivated different ways. So you need to go look for that kind of financial coach that can help you in the kind of personality you need.
How can people reach you, Sonya?
Sure. So you can find us on the web at financiallyfierce.com. That's our website. You can always call our offices at 202-505-1051. And we're on social media everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Twitter is Smith-Valentine. Instagram is financially_fierce. Facebook, financially fierce. So you can find us just about everywhere. We're not hard to find.
Sonya Smith-Valentine with Financially Fierce, President, CEO of Financially Fierce. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.